Welcome back to the Right Boundless podcast with me, Robert Valderrama. On this episode, we have the one and only founder of Rogue Collective in downtown Los Angeles, also partner of Los Pepes, is Colin McCarthy. Hey, Colin, welcome to the Right Boundless podcast. And Jaime, welcome back.
Thank you.
Colin, tell us about your experience on motorcycles and how you got into bikes. I think I met you on your first motorcycle, right?
You did. Yeah, my first bike was a 2016 Fat Bob Dyna. That was my very, very first bike. It was, in looking back, it was a lot of bike for a first bike. I know something you talked about in past episodes was that sort of Sportster starter phase, which was something, to be honest, I wanted to skip. But I now understand how it may have been important in the progression of understanding how to deal with a motorcycle. Nonetheless, yes, that Fat Bob was my first bike.
How did you get that bike, and what was the transition to that?
Well, so, unlike a lot of the guys that we ride with, and really most people that ride, that I know anyway, I did not grow up with motorcycles. My dad has never been on a motorcycle. I doubt ever will be. Grandfather never was. I had one random uncle that always really loved dirt bikes, and I remember growing up loving the helmets that he had, but that was really the only interaction that I had with motorcycles outside of the odd friend that had a bike from time to time. It wasn't until, I'm 38 now, so what was I, 36, somewhere in there, when I got my first bike, and that was here in LA, and that was that Fat Bob.
What made you do, zero experience, zero history, nobody's been riding that much except for your uncle. The only fascination you had was helmets. What made you pull the trigger to jump into a bike?
It was something deep down that I'd always wanted to do. And I think you see a lot of people in LA riding. The weather out here is incredible. You can ride
We
year
only have
round.
11 months out of the year.
The opportunity to avoid some traffic and to turn... The way I approached it was super simple. If I can make my transportation from point A to point B something I enjoy, it dramatically increases my overall happiness getting in and around the city.
But why a Harley?
There's no other bike that's ever really appealed to me. That was the only one. Now being on bikes more, I'll be honest, all bikes on some level appeal to me. I don't ever see myself on a Kawasaki Ninja permanently, but I would love to ride one. And this time 2 years ago, I had no interest ever being on one of those. So my love for motorcycles has really come a long way, and it continues to diversify the more bikes I experience.
And you ride a bike every day.
Every day.
Now, you got a bike?
Yeah.
What was it, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, no, we'll call it 3 years. Had that first bike for a year and some change, and now this bike for, again, call it about a year.
You had a nickname because of that bike, right?
Yeah, Floorboard Colin.
Yeah, it was a Fat Bob with floorboards.
It was full on club style. I can receive no credit for it, but it was a monster.
That's how you bought it. You got it used.
As exactly that way. And it was fucking beautiful. And that's what it was. Even the guy selling me the bike, who's one of our friends, Winston, over at Bartell's, he even said to me a couple of times, "Are you sure this is a lot of bike?" Because it had been upgraded to a 110 from a 103 to a 110, had thunder headers on it, big sissy bar, Lucky Dave's 11-inch pullback bars. It had a Connolly fairing, but very similar aesthetic, obviously, to the Memphis Shades Road Warrior fairings that we have now. So very much matte black, but then floorboards. And I fucking loved those floorboards. I really did.
They're very comfortable.
But to me, a fast, nimble bike up until now was not appealing. I was honestly looking for a bagger. I didn't know it at the time, but I wanted a bike that, to me, driving, I've always liked big trucks. I've always liked old Cadillacs. I've liked cars that you float in. I'm not really like a zippy car.
Just to jump in real quick because of the trucks. Where are you originally from?
Colorado.
So a lot of trucks out there.
Yeah, I had, up until the car I had here in LA, which was a Subaru, I'd only ever owned trucks. pickup trucks.
Yeah.
I've had 4 or 5 of them. So grew up in Southern Colorado, went to college at a school called University of Colorado in Boulder, then moved right to New York City and was in Manhattan for 12, 13 years before moving out here to LA.
But during that time, you never rode a bike.
No, I never had a car during that time. Yeah, I mean, I was a real traditional Manhattanite during that time. Didn't have a car, all public transportation. Anytime in and out of the city, it was via trains or a driven automobile. So the transition back to driving and getting around myself was definitely, it was a change being back in LA. And I think that after a few years, of which there were 4 or 5 of them driving around LA, it just kind of hit me one day and realized, fuck, I should get a bike. And I went through that process completely on my own. Didn't really have anybody else that I knew that had, of course, reached out to some friends that had bikes, but this was before I knew Jaime, before I knew Los Pepes, had ever heard of Nia.
Before you were a part of Los Pepes in a personal level and a business level.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this was pre all of that. And it was really just one of those moments where I realized it was something I had kind of always really wanted to do. Everyone that knew me, didn't necessarily think I was crazy, but they were surprised. They're like, what, you're going to get a bike, or you got a bike?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I did it. And I just got a huge, super loud, all blacked out
matte black
monster
with floorboards.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. It's one of the first bikes I've seen, Dyna status with floorboards.
But, contrary to one of our, one of the participants on this conversation's opinion, it was a beautiful bike.
It was a beautiful bike.
It really did look good. It really did. And somehow those floorboards.
I never said it didn't look good. I only said that, for the style that we were looking for in that moment, the floorboards were not, and also for a guy that is riding, the first bike, you should want to have all the control possible, and that is everybody knows.
Definitely understand what you're saying. It's not a traditional style, or it's not a traditional choice, but that's what made it so badass, and that's what made it so original. And I've owned plenty of bikes with floorboards, and I've gone mid peg, mid controls, forward controls. It never crossed my mind to put floorboards on a Dyna or a Softail. Well, some Softails come with it, like the Deluxe. But it looked badass, because you had the Lucky Daves, because you had the exhaust and everything else.
It had that, it really was, to me anyway, it was that kind of easy rider looking, or easy rider version of the, not Hell's Angels, but Sons of Anarchy Dyna style. So it was really sort of a convergence of those two. And that's why I really loved it. Full disclosure, I bought this bike. I was moving at the time, moving downtown, moved and bought this bike at just the same week, nearly the same day, and didn't know how to ride it yet. Had only taken the introductory course, or the rider's course, through Bartell's Harley. That was the only time. Then about a month passed, and that introduction course was the only time I'd ever been on a motorcycle, period. Purchased the bike. Can't get it anywhere yet, so it stays at Bartell's for about a month. And finally I say, fuck it, go down there. And I'm committed to taking this bike from Marina Del Rey to downtown LA by myself. And haven't been on a bike or ridden on the streets publicly ever. But I said, I don't care what I have to do, I'm going to do it. Went over, got on the bike. Winston, who sold me the bike, sets it up out back, and we take a couple of laps around the back streets of Marina Del Rey. And full disclosure, over the course of that 30 minutes, I've never been so close to just laying something down on a corner and walking away. It was heavy. It was super loud. It was way too much machine for what I knew. It was too, it just, I'd still keep making payments. I don't care, but I just don't ever want to see that or be on that thing again. And it took me about a week to really start loving it, and then a month to be fully in love with it, and now it's the only way I get around.
How many months was that before you met us? Before you showed up in that photo shoot in Palmdale?
Which we'll discuss that too.
I think I had been riding, let's say a month. As far as miles, I was already, I didn't get on the interstate for a while. I didn't have anybody telling me that the interstate is actually a lot easier to ride on than, busy city streets. So call it a month, maybe Less than 1,000 miles for sure. Probably closer to 500.
So let's just say that your ride to that photo shoot was probably the longest ride that you had done since you bought your motorcycle.
I was just gonna say
certainly close. Yeah, certainly.
What was the one before that?
Out to way north Malibu, way past Neptune's Net. So yeah, it was close if I'm remembering it correctly. That whole time is kind of bumbled together, but yes, that was probably the longest. I had set out weeks before that to go see a friend in Ojai and realized about halfway through that I wasn't quite ready for that ride.
Yeah.
So how do you meet us?
Motorcycles have been the only experience in my life that I've had, pauses and hesitations along the way. It was something I've never experienced before. But I think getting on and experiencing riding in LA is incredible, but it takes a little time to get used to, and doing it alone is something different.
Especially when you're splitting through lanes and you're on the freeways or going through downtown.
Yeah. And I just am not, I'm not built to be, if I see somebody else doing it, I have to be able to do it. So to take it really slow at the beginning was not something I necessarily mentally prepared for.
Now, we all met in Palmdale, right? In the desert. You shot out there with
Nate Schultz.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Well,
Tell us about the whole, how we met Hyman.
Sure. So Nate, I met Nate in the learning course, I forget, beginner riders or whatever it's called.
At Bartels?
Yeah. Through Bartels. That's where I met Nate. We got to talking in that course.
Did he just get his bike recently too?
He had bought his bike not more than a couple weeks before that, but already had it. So he brought his bike to the class. And of course, everybody in the class thought it was super cool. He already had his own bike. And this was the Sportster, 8 bars. And, to be honest, Nate is still in my phone as a Nate Schultz, nice guy, glittery gas tank. Because he had a glittery gas tank on that bike. But he then, over the course of, Jaime, now that I think about it, it was a couple of months that I was riding before I met the Los Pepes guys, because I met Nate with that original bike. He had to ride with you guys, then get a new bike, switch it up to a Dyna as he realized the Sportster. Would you say that his transition from a Sportster to a Dyna was probably the fastest?
It definitely happened in about 2 weeks. He rode with us once to Born Free. Yeah. He realized how fucked he was in the way back. And that same night, he posted his Sportster for sale. And I think a week after, he found in Craigslist the Dyna.
Because he over the course of a couple of weeks, maybe a month, we exchanged numbers during the rider course. We went on a couple of rides, just the two of us. He was the only other guy that I knew that rode, and he'd hit me up, and we went on a couple of rides, really mellow. He talked about Los Pepes, Jaime, his friend, another Los Pepes guy, Judah, a couple of times, and invited me to go on rides. And to be totally honest, I didn't yet understand both the power and joy of riding with other people. I had always seen it being kind of something that I wanted to do solo. It wasn't really something I was looking to get in a group with. And it took me a little while until eventually he invited me to that Palmdale shoot and said, you should come out and meet everybody. And I honestly just said, fuck it, let's do it. Rode out. And the rest is history, as they say.
Well, my favorite part about that trip is when we met you for the first time. Was when you got out there, Jaime said, he threw you a shirt and he says, put this on. And you said, I usually don't wear anybody's brand or logos or anything else.
But my own. Yeah.
But my own. Mm-hmm. But my own. But you put the shirt on.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And then you made it your own.
Yeah, I haven't taken it off.
And what was my next phrase?
Your next phrase, you said two that are memorable during that time. Number one was when I was taking it off and putting it on. You said, something to the effect of everybody should look that way, or some. It was a compliment.
Nobody should take off their shirt unless if they look like that.
Yeah, which is a stretch.
It was pretty gay at that moment too.
There's no fitness model here.
Did you think he was hitting on you at that time?
No. But I did have.
It was way after.
I had some hesitations as far as Jaime's concerned. You know, I've known Jaime's in my past. Now that I know Jaime better, I care for him deeply and know that there's much more. But in the moment, I thought, okay, all right, we can play this game for sure. I'll enjoy this as well. And then it was the comment where we're all standing for a group photo. Everybody's standing quiet, about to take the photo, and Jaime says, "Colin, get over here and give me a blowjob for the photo." And I said, "Oh, okay." Yeah, this is
well, that didn't happen, right?
Yeah, and I made it work, you know. Ingenuity.
Yeah, he sure brings out the gay in a lot of people. He does that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that trip, that ride was great. And
that ride was great. And can we give a shout out to the photographer, Jaime?
Shouts out.
Yeah, Luciano. Yeah,
Luciano was a great photographer.
Which, by the way, might join us in one of the next episodes.
Which would be amazing. I printed out 3 or 4 paint pictures that he took, which are fabulous.
Absolutely, without consent.
Without consent. Sorry, I take it back. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And then Colin. So what I meant by you wouldn't wear another person's brand except for your own, but then you made it your own. Can you talk about your collaboration or your partnership with Los Pepes?
Sure. Yeah. So
and what you guys are doing and where you're at. You have a store in Los Angeles too, right?
I do. Yeah, I have a clothing boutique in downtown LA. Work with about 50 different brands in that store. It's in the old Al's Bar space. Used to be a punk rock club, so a ton of history in the building that we're in. But have my own brand, Rogue Collective, and like I said, work with a bunch of others. A lot of them made in downtown LA. Not all, but a majority are. And the partnership between Jaime and I, or my involvement more intensely with Los Pepes, really started that day. You know, it was quickly after. As funny as everything was, I did really enjoy that ride and getting to know everybody, and reached out to Jaime, as I do with most brands that I come across, and said, you know, if you're interested in talking about a partnership, I have a retail space, and I'd love to help if I can.
So you initiated the...
Yeah, this was before I knew the scope of what he was working on. You know, I knew that there was some...
What attracted you to it?
Well, the friendship and my potential involvement in it, what I could bring to the table.
But what more like what attracted to you? Was it because it was kind of motorcycle related, or you saw the culture, you saw the people?
Exactly. Yeah. So over the first couple of months riding, certainly solo, it became clear to me, having a couple of my own brands and now being involved in a different culture, that there was a pretty big hole, or at least what I perceived as a hole, in the garment or clothing business within the motorcycle industry. I think it's very well represented on a couple of sides. You know, I think you have some really solid companies doing very, very impressive technical pieces, you know, with weather retardant fabrics, protection, more on the speed bike leather, you know, that's all been done and will continue to evolve, I think. But I found myself wanting to ride in what was really just Americana workwear. So think about all of the brands that this nation was built on. Red Wing, which is a lot of what we all wear anyway. Red Wing boots, selvage denim from 316 or Rogue Territory, or, you know, Levi's Made and Crafted, or APC, though that's a French brand. Jackets, we're wearing a lot of chore coats from a bunch of different companies that are typically just 100% cotton canvas. But none of that had some of the components that I really wanted to see or needed in something that I rode in. You know, some pockets that were a little handier or built or designed specifically for the purposes that we need them for on a bike. And aesthetically, I think I I think that Los Pepes fills a really unique hole that kind of transcends multiple different bike brands. And for all of us that ride and that are participate in this pastime or whatever you call it, the bike that you ride is very much an identity, and I find that there is a lot of similarities between the clothing brands people choose to ride in and the bikes that they ride, which makes total sense. I mean, I think you see that across multiple different landscapes for sure. So I don't think that's anything new, but I do think that Los Pepes can be and continues to be, and hopefully will be moving forward, a bridge between, the more on one side, the cafe racer sort of pseudo deist crowd to the now evolving GS adventure crowd. And then of course, with some solid roots in the Dyna club style Harley crowd. And I don't think that there are a lot of brands that aren't equipment, like helmets, possibly gloves, etc., that transcend those multiple markets.
Where with all this knowledge and all this information and teaming up with Los Pepes, have you guys? You guys have done how many jackets? How many? You want to talk about the products you guys have developed?
Yeah,
that you make here in Los Angeles.
We do. Yeah,
you guys have designed, or can you talk about that?
Yeah, we do. So we've done. So our first jacket was the Concept One, and that came out. Jaime, that came out December, January of 19. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah.
We were putting it together, designing it, going through production, say September, October, November of 18. We did want to release it December of 18, but it got pushed to January of 19. We then, about 4 to 5 months after that, did Concept 1.1.
Well, before you go to 1.1, can you talk about the materials you chose,
Sure,
and the style you went to for Concept 1?
Yeah, so this is this is kind of what I do now. So I have a lot of fabric wholesaler relationships, all the components that go into making a garment. One thing I have come to really love most about LA, outside of the weather, friends and people, relationships that I've developed, is ability to have just about anything you want in the garment realm made here in Los Angeles, which is something that you don't see in a lot of cities. It's just a very healthy industry in downtown LA. And if clothes are being made in the States and it's not something super specialized, very high likelihood that that's coming from downtown LA. Or Vernon, sort of the larger downtown LA area. So utilized a fabric wholesaler that I've utilized for years, Sanaz, over on Gladys. Sourced a 12-ounce Japanese bull denim, jet black. And the rest of the components were put together from Dara buttons, a few other little pieces here and there, but a majority of it, or all of it, was from downtown. And then that was actually constructed with our original production partner, Perry White, in the Arts District, in the Binford Lofts, which is where I had a bunch of pieces made for Rogue in the past. And that jacket, is still something I think a lot of us wear every day. It's just a really easy piece. It's, damn near bulletproof, not literally, but meaning you couldn't mess it up. It's just a really nice, thick black denim jacket. Yeah, bunch of bells and whistles. We put a mat pocket on the back, and you can carry some pretty big things if you need to.
Carry an iPad in there, right?
Yeah.
A laptop.
Yeah, you can carry. It runs the entire panel of the back, so you can, depending upon how big the thing is that you need to put in, you can put a lot of stuff in that pocket. And it's not something you want to use regularly, but if you're in a spot that meaning carry a bunch of stuff,
you don't have a backpack also, or anything like that. Yeah.
If you're in a spot like you have to make an emergency stop at the grocery store, it's nice to know that you can put absolutely everything that you got into your jacket and get it home if you don't have bags on your bike.
That's amazing.
And that was something that we wanted to do.
And
outside of that,
sales were that good, and then you guys went into more of a summer jacket with the 1.1,
which was, as you said, our summer or warmer weather answer to the original one.
That one's my favorite.
It's what I have on now. I wear it all the time, and it is.
I'm going to put mine on right now. Just
very similar. You should. I'm not quite sure why you don't have it on. Very similar construction to the one. Fabric is totally different. This is 100% cotton canvas, little lighter weight. We did garment dye this piece, even though we garment dyed it its same color. That was just to pre-wash, pre-shrink. So people could, since it's a much light gray, almost eggshell white color, riding in it or doing anything in it, it's going to take on dirt and wear much differently than our original jet black piece. So we wanted to be able to wash this thing just like you do a t-shirt, and theoretically it softens up and it sort of molds to the wearer.
Yeah, I washed this twice and it just gets softer and softer. I love it. It's flexible. I love how it reflects the light. The pockets fit many things.
Jaime and I made some adjustments to this one. We did add silicone covered tack buttons, which the original jacket with as thick as the denim was, the sewn on custom dyed enamel buttons were just a little too flimsy for that fabric. So a tack button, which is the kind of button that you see on most jeans, is much more durable, sturdy. Again, not something that you have to worry about when it's being washed regularly.
This thing's amazing. It's outstanding. I want to hear one more thing. I want to hear your collaboration with Espinosa.
Yeah,
Espinosa is LA based, and they make vests and they do everything for Sons of Anarchy, for all the real clubs, motorcycle clubs. Jaime,
their history is
Angels
incredible.
and
Mongols. All of the big motorcycle clubs, they get their club vests through Espinosa.
And you guys just recently got a collaboration, right?
Yeah, and as hard as
which
it is
I also
for
have
me,
a vest.
Yeah,
but you guys did a few vests.
Yeah, it's hard as it is for me to admit, the vest that we did with them is probably my favorite piece that we've done.
It's
I've
fucking fantastic.
It really is. And having it at my store as well, it is easily the most talked about, asked about garment that we have in there. And we have a lot of different shit in there. And for people to be as drawn
50
to
different
that,
companies, right?
Yeah, men's, women's, accessories, everything. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. And that vest is always at the front of the line. But that piece, Jaime, correct me if I'm wrong, but originally the relationship through Espinosa came through our boy Mark, who you've already interviewed.
So Mark did give me a little bit of a lead on, hey, go talk to these guys, but accidentally I had talked to them a couple of times before.
Accidentally?
Just because I wanted a vest. So I was talking to them to see if I could do a custom vest just for me, as I've done before in the past, making custom pieces for myself of Los Pepes. And then once we started this conversation of having different pieces collaborating with other brands, I talked to Eric from Espinosa, and it basically took off. Obviously, Mark, when he heard about it, this was the hidden piece that Los Pepes didn't have, a collaboration with a big brand like that.
Right. And we had done just before our collaboration with Espinosa, we had done a very small capsule release with a brand called Birdwell, Beach Britches, which they're a very old school Southern California surf brand. We did just swim trunks with them as a summer release. And having an opportunity back to back to do a collaborative release with a company like Birdwell and then a company like Espinosa, I mean, these are two equally famous, equally successful companies in two polar opposite markets. I mean, you're talking about Hell's Angels, and then you're talking about 60-year-old Manhattan Beach surfers. Very, very different worlds. And
then you even threw in Super 73, right?
Yeah, and that one was also really, really cool. I mean, that was not on the garment side. I think that relationship could still go there someday, depending upon how it evolves. But yeah, Super 73 making a couple bikes, and Jaime deserves all the credit for that. That's a relationship that he built, and still something that I would like to see evolve.
Where do you see the future of Los Pepes Co. and then collaborating with other companies going?
I really love the collaborative marketplace that brands have created, and it's been done for years and years and years. There's a bicycle company called Cinelli that's been collaborating with artists since the early 70s, and then you see it as it has evolved over the years. And I think the modern day landscape of collaborations, I think, was forged and more importantly refined by the current sneaker market. You had over the last 5 to 10 years, you have all kinds of different people collaborating with Nike, Adidas, Puma, etc., to bring a different aesthetic to their shoe releases. And that was something that evolved and really incubated within the streetwear market. And I love it. It gives you an opportunity to step outside of your typical creative element and apply your aesthetic to different products in different segments, over different platforms. And it's really cool. I think, to be honest, the collaboration game has gotten a little crazy over the years and maybe a little unfocused. You see some pretty crazy random shit out there, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think it's important that brands and companies hold on to and always continue to refine their own aesthetic and their own trajectory as a brand. That being said, if you can partner with brands that are doing something equally, possibly even better than you are in a different realm, it's a lot of fun to team up with them. Obviously from a business perspective, you have an opportunity to cross-market, cross-promote, gain customers of theirs and hopefully share customers of yours. And the benefits are endless. Obviously your margins go down or can go down and you can take a hit on the numbers, but hopefully that's made up for in volume. So I do hope that Los Pepes continues to work with all kinds of different brands. I think we are uniquely positioned to do that. And I think as our brand group and really, to be honest, what it is that we ride evolves, I think that will really set the tone for who those future collaborations are with.
Who would you like to collaborate with? There is right now out there that you admire their style and that you think we should do something with.
Great question, Hyman.
I mean, there are so many. That question is. It's
what would
really
be the goal? Because I'm sure.
I mean, if Los Pepes one day were able to do a collaboration with Filson, I would consider us to have won. Something like that would blow my mind. Much beyond that, if we were able to collaborate with, say, shoe companies like Viberg out of Canada or Red Wings or Alden out of England, those would really, really excite me. What I would like to see Los Pepes become, whether it's a year to 10 years, is a full-on lifestyle brand and offering both consultation to motorcycle companies as well as the creation development of our own products. There's a brand that Jaime hears me talk a lot about out of San Francisco called Mission Workshop. And Mission Workshop started as the original founders of that brand are two of the original guys that founded Chrome. Chrome bags. You saw them bike messenger bags.
Messenger bags.
Everybody had them for a long time. Well, Chrome, wound up selling out, which I think is a term that people look on too negatively. I don't know too many people that don't have a brand or haven't really tried to push a boulder up a hill, which is building a brand, and don't understand that selling out is a victory. So don't knock them at all for that. But they wanted to sort of circle their wagons and create something that was more refined, higher price point, and higher quality. And then came Mission Workshop. So Mission Workshop started as just a couple of bag designs. So we're talking $350, $400 messenger bags or backpacks, but made out of wax canvas, elite level craftsmanship, really beautiful, super minimalistic design, just really beautiful product.
Yeah, talking about bulletproof, those bags are...
And they have a lifetime warranty,
bulletproof.
just like Filson does. Some of these companies, the services that they offer are overlooked. You have a Filson bag, take that on a trip, you rip the handle out, send it back to them. If they can't repair it, they send you a new one within a couple of weeks.
That's amazing.
People, sure, you spend $400 on a duffel bag, but if you use that duffel bag the way that you're supposed to, you use it the rest of your life.
Right.
So Mission Workshop.
Well, there's shoes that have done that before, right? The 1,000 mile, the Wolverine ones are legendary for that.
It's been offered forever. It's just something that people, our consumer behavior has changed a lot. We want new stuff all the time. And it used to be when those companies built offerings like that, it was a construction worker that bought a pair of shoes and was going to wear those 5 days a week, every day to work forever. So it wasn't, we are so much more about disposable pieces now than we really ever have been. And I think in the last year to 5 years, you've seen a big push in purchasing higher quality over more volume. So less is more, quality over quantity. And I think that that's really important. And that's something
that's very hard to find because
Sure.
you find a lot of companies making just these wear it one time and throw it away, and they don't last, or you have an issue and you try to get a hold of customer care
Sure.
or try to get a replacement, it's a mess. So these quality companies are very important to exist.
And it's something that Los Pepes takes very seriously. All of our pieces, they are literally made by hand. All the load-bearing seams on the jacket that you're wearing, which is the shoulder, the places that carry the highest stress, it's all triple stitching. Nothing is going to. You really have to work to go through a jacket like that. But Mission Workshop would be another dream to work with.
Mm-hmm. Another question. What brought you to LA?
I'd been in New York for 12 or 13 years. There was a time where I thought I'd be in Manhattan my entire life. It just was a spot that really spoke to me. But there came a point where I needed a change, and I came out and visited a friend. That friend lived in Venice. Walked the first day on Abbot Kinney and felt the same way I did when I walked through Soho for the first time. It was just eye-opening. The light sparkles a little bit differently. The weather's incredible. It's just a different life out here. I see a lot of opportunity in LA. I love the weather. The winters in New York I don't miss. And now I get to ride year-round.
So it wasn't a girl, it wasn't anything like that?
No,
it
wasn't. This was a solo mission of wanting a different landscape. And really thankful that I did.
Yeah, well, we're happy you did too. And then just to end it on a motorcycle, riding Boundless. Have you ever ridden New York? And can you tell us a comparison of what it's like riding in New York versus in California? What you like more?
So Jaime and I were in New York a couple of months ago on a trip. This was over the summer. And this was my first time riding.
Summer of 2019.
Yes.
But that was September, right? Or October?
Well, it was hot as shit.
It was so hot.
That.
Yeah.
So it had to have been.
It was
August
definitely
or
super
September.
hot.
It wasn't October.
Yeah. September, most likely.
So we were, man, because I think we were there for September 11th, if I'm not mistaken. Which is always...
I think it was like the weekend. No, I think it was the weekend after. Okay. I think it was like September 17 for the invitation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Jaime and I were out there for a Los Pepes...
Well, the block party. I think it was.
Right, we'll call it a Los Pepes
Who's
recon
block
mission.
Party?
Jaime?
Who's block party?
Indian Larry's block party. Every year they
Brooklyn.
organize it's Indian Larry.
It's a scene, man. They shut down multiple
company.
blocks, tents. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
It used to be at the same time as in the Invitational, or the week before, or the week after. So the Invitational is a big custom motorcycle event,
Right.
And the week before or the week after, Indian Larry, which is this legendary custom builder company, organized like a block party, and it's all filled up with everybody that likes motorcycles in New York, basically.
Yeah. So we were out there for that, and we also Jaime had put together a partnership with Eagle Riders. So during our time in New York, we had a couple of big Harleys. Jaime, they were the
Road Kings, right?
Yeah, Road Kings. So bags, the huge cop fairing windshields in front. They're big bikes, not city bikes.
Right.
They're bigger bikes than we're riding in LA. And we rode in New York like we do in LA. We split lanes. We rode aggressively. We rode with some friends that live out there. And, they were not ready to ride as fast as we do out here for sure. But it was an experience. It was a lot of fun. I think had I not been riding with Jaime, who did ride in New York regularly, so he was much more acclimated to the experience, I probably would have taken it a little easier, but we rode very aggressively in New York. We didn't wait for anyone. We were oftentimes going backwards to go forwards. So we're weaving through traffic so much, whether that be on the Upper East Side, Soho, Lower East Side, Houston. It was a busy time in New York, and we got all over that city. And truth be told, I saw more of New York during that 3 or 4 day trip than the decade that I lived there. Because
Go figure.
Well, I always tell everyone, once you get a bike in New York,
what's that? Huh?
Once you get a bike in New York, it's like you fucking get wings, because you can jump into, Brooklyn for lunch, and then back in Manhattan for a drink after lunch, and then be in New Jersey for dinner and back. And you would never think about doing that when you're living in New York without transportation. That's crazy.
The distance that you're covering is not that far, but when you're doing it in New York, there's a lot of life between those. You know, you can go 5 miles, and that's a different universe.
Yeah, it's very limited, especially if you're counting on public
and
transportation.
And also, it looks really
you're based off.
It looks really far if you have to do it by subway.
Right.
So I absolutely loved riding in New York. You know, I wouldn't. The winter is going to be a different thing for sure, but we had a lot of fun riding in New York.
All right, just for the listeners, if you had to choose California, New York, where's your favorite place to ride?
LA all day.
LA all day.
100% LA.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Hey, Colin, thank you so much. Where can everybody find you?
You know, Instagram is the best way. That's probably where I keep up to date the most, and that is at Colin T McC, MCC, or obviously Rogue Collective, which is the Rogue Co.
Well, we greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you for stopping by the Ride Boundless podcast. Please keep us up to date with lospepes.co, Rogue Collective.
Collective.
I just want to make sure I said that right. And thank you for your time.